What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 79 of Valley Town. I'm ChanManV, and we got Reynad and Noxious back from traveling and hopefully recovering from all the jet lag and everything. How are you guys doing? Ray, it's been a couple weeks. How you doing?
I've been good, man. It's been a long month for sure. Trip ended up being pretty long, and then had a lot of work to catch up on when I came back because I kind of kept extending the travel. So I'm back now though. It's been an exhausting couple weeks, but still fun. But yeah, it's been good. Been doing a lot of Pokemon Go the last couple days too, which has been awesome.
Oh man, that's been crazy lately. Yeah, I've been. So, what's your highest ranked Pokemon right now?
It's only like 1200, but I don't use Dust, so.
Yeah, exactly. 1200's good, man. Mine are all just still in the hundreds and stuff. So, how about you, Noxious? Have you? I know you've been in China for a week, so have you gotten a chance?
Yeah,
to
I didn't
Pokemon
even
Go?
really play it. I played it like I arrived yesterday morning from China. I slept a little bit last night and went out this morning with the kid, take him for a walk. It gives me an excuse to actually do Pokemon Go stuff.
Yeah, pick about 10 of them or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? Having a kid's not as bad when you have Pokemon Go to walk him with. So.
Yeah, I did that whole bike ride kind of thing too. Wouldn't it be awesome if we could go and find cards in Hearthstone this way? That'd be so amazing.
Yeah, we were talking about that a bit earlier. I think I really like the idea of the whole augmented reality thing. So that'd be pretty cool if they added some kind of like real life quests where you go pick up cards from like at different locations. Although I imagine, can you even imagine like a bunch of people in New York just going to the same Starbucks to pick up a Hearthstone card? It would be a fucking nightmare.
Well, that's what they're seeing right now, man. You're seeing guys going to police stations and all kinds of people getting kicked out of malls and
so like on a serious note though, like Reynad, since I imagine you might have thought about the business side of that. Like, do you think there's any like future for the whole buying licenses to have exclusive Pokemon in certain areas and whatnot for like businesses?
Buying licenses?
Yeah, like if it ever becomes that big, like do you see a world in which like a location or a restaurant does that shit?
I mean, this has been like a culture defining thing to the point where like I've been playing mostly at night when the servers work, and there are hundreds of like all the bars close down on Main Street, and there's hundreds of people outside still at 3 a.m. in little like clusters all playing Pokemon. God. So I don't think it can retain that level of popularity, because that would be like the end of, I don't know, the human race. But right, because nothing. I mean, so yeah, I think like. I guess what I'm saying is I don't think the game will be popular enough to the point where you can make a business out of hoarding your Pokemon and like fencing people off.
I was meaning like, let's assume you're like, I don't know, Starbucks or whatever. You buy like an exclusive Pokemon for your region for a certain time,
right?
Where the only way the people in your city can maybe get that Pokemon is that they show up at that location
maybe
specifically.
I think eventually, I think it might even happen as soon as like maybe the next next Pokemon game they come out with, because the things like Foursquare and crap like that have been happening for ages now. Like having these type of geocaching and geolocation type of things. So
it depends if Niantic wants to actually like sell the maybe they would feel bad selling exclusive Pokemon in exchange for money, and then like not having it be available everywhere.
I guess so. Yeah.
I don't know what Starbucks is willing to pay relative to like.
I don't think they need to pay. They probably don't even need to pay.
I mean, it's one of those things where maybe smaller businesses would be more open to it, right?
Yeah.
But anyway,
it's definitely been a culture changing type of thing, and lots of people getting more exercises and all these these scary stories and cool stories. It's all kinds of stories involved with it. It's been really, really amazing.
Yeah, I can't wait for the guy jumped off a plane to catch Articuno fucking story. That's what I'm waiting for.
Oh my god! Dude, I don't think the Google Maps API maps out the just anything above land. So
sure,
shouldn't be getting any Pokemon.
If you snapshot it midair, you're good to go.
Yeah. All right, well, let's get back to Hearthstone. Just kind of kick off just what we've been doing in Hearthstone. I tried out the Tavern Brawl today. Have you guys gotten a chance to play it today at all?
Not one bit.
Not yet, no.
It's basically miniature Yoxeron. You play a card and it casts a random spell. So you can imagine how silly it is. Games are super long though, because you're healing, you're drawing cards, it's just kind of crazy that fashion. But yeah, just another new one, I guess. They definitely haven't done this one before.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's one of those like easy to implement ideas.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be fun for people who don't necessarily have a huge collection, because you literally play fucking anything, and you get random spells. Does it have to do with their mana cost at all? Like, does it scale up or
No,
down?
it's literally
Okay.
Yoxeron. Like any
Okay.
any spell on any target, basically.
Okay. Sure.
So yeah, after playing it a couple times, it's just like, okay, I probably had enough of this. This is good enough.
So you play Tempo Mage again with Flame
No,
Waker?
no, you don't even play anything. You just pick a class. That's all you do, and they give you
Oh,
cards.
really?
They give you cards.
Holy
yeah.
crap,
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
yeah. So it's really just not much.
Jesus.
Yeah. But yeah, what have you guys been up to? I mean, Ray, I know you're back to streaming. I caught a few of your streams this last week. What you been playing?
A lot of bad decks mostly. So this is gonna bug. This is gonna bug me way too much. Can you fix the cropping on my face? Like
Yeah.
you and Noxious are both like perfectly centered, and I was like,
I had to recenter
Overly
Yeah,
myself.
yeah, you're moving me. Yeah, I get you. I get you. I get
Poor
it.
Reynad.
there.
You move too much though.
Yeah. So I've been playing a lot of random stuff because the season reset, so I wanted to try like all the weirdest decks I could think of, and a lot of them just really sucked. Like I played a lot of Priest for a long time just to see if there's anything to work with there. Yeah, I kind of started to realize that. I mean, the more developed Hearthstone is, the harder it is to climb with decks like that because nowadays everyone's list is just like passable. Nobody's really playing sketchy stuff. So yeah, it's just you get punished a lot for trying new things, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. It's been fun. I tried like N'Zoth Paladin with like Blessed Champion Burst Finish. I tried.
Wow.
I tried all sorts of Murloc decks. I tried like. Oh god! I mean, there's so many things, man. I can't even list all of
Yeah,
it. A lot of
yeah.
Priest, like lots of versions of Priest. Yeah, it's been crazy. But yeah, all those decks were like not performing super well. So eventually, I just like got salty from losing too much. So I just switched to like Aggro Shaman or something. And obviously, that went on a winning streak immediately. So it's just like, I don't know, man. It's frustrating. I want to play some original stuff, but it seems like you get punished for it now more than
Yeah.
you used to.
That's true. I feel like that's you mentioned the more developed Hearthstone becomes, but I think it's largely because like there's been a slight amount of power creep over time, where it's easier to get completely tempoed out on turn 2 even nowadays. Where like a long time ago you got tempoed out by a Yeti. I mean the Zoolists were doing it a lot earlier, but it feels like now every class has got those tempo plays. At least the classes that work in the metagame. We're not talking Priest necessarily, but like Priest will punish your janky tempo decks if you don't get like a really good curve that's perfect. Even they can do it. So like at low ranks, whatever that might be, like up until like just about anything, honestly, like people will just punish. You can play fun stuff that can sometimes snowball, like Murloc Priest with Confuse, like the kind of like, gimmicky shit that you can have fun with.
Yeah.
Like, have you been trying mostly tempo Priest to stray away from control or a combo?
Oh, Priest.
Yeah.
It was N'Zoth Priest was the one I was having the most
Sure.
luck with, but it wasn't like I cut all the bad cards, so I wasn't playing like Shifting Shade or anything. I was just playing Twilight Drakes instead. Those are really good. Um, yeah, the deck was like decent. It's just missing something. I don't know what.
Yeah.
Well, 2-drop, obviously, I know what, but
Yeah. Right.
I was gonna say, like, I was talking about that with the Firebat when we were in China. Like, if they just switch Totem Golem to Priest, suddenly Priest is actually playable. Like, it's ridiculous how you just swap that one card to another class, and suddenly the card, like the class as a whole, becomes
Yeah. Yeah.
just a good
well,
class.
remember Shaman before League of
Totem Golem.
Explorers.
Yeah.
It was just like straight unplayable, and then the only card that came out was Tunnel Shock, and all of a sudden it was like the best deck in the game. So yeah, it happens that way sometimes.
Yeah. Hey guys, I'm gonna have to actually restart the stream real quick. There's XSplit's kind of freaking out right now, so give me 1 sec. We'll be right back. A little bit of XSplit issues. All right. So we're talking about Priest. Priest 1 card away, and It'd be great. It'd be great to see. But
They need to bridge the gap like onto. That's really. I feel like you mentioned Tunnel Trog kind of making like being the glue that makes Shaman work because they already had Totem Golem, they already had Tuskar Totemic. I guess Vitality Totem lowered the value of that one for a little bit, but like they needed a little bit more to push that, and like the totems are so much more valuable with Thing from Below, like just as a standalone thing. So when you have like all of that working together. I'm not even sure. Like, I think Tunnel Trog's been cut in a few mid-range decks. Like, people have been trying just Argent Squire instead and curving up a little higher. That's been interesting.
It's been cut altogether. I mean, I've definitely seen the Argent
Tunnel
Squires,
Trog has,
but
yeah.
That's definitely been interesting. But you're coming back from StarLadder, obviously. Then there were some interesting decks at StarLadder, and just the tournament overall, I think was a bit different than what we've seen with HTT. 6-0 ended up winning it, which was really, really cool. He got a nice big check there at the end. But what are some of the cool moments or decks that you saw? We have Six's decks, which we'll take a look at in a second, but I figured Noxious, you should maybe talk about some things.
I guess like overall what I'd have to say about the event was like the decks were cool. There was a pretty good amount of diversity, but I think there were a lot of misplays that event for like the 8 players and the amount of series we had. There was a ton of little slip ups here and there, and like some of them just cost the games. Like it's just sometimes just maybe misunderstanding how to play certain matchups. And I think it comes down to Conquest, like best of 7 requiring you to bring so many more decks. Like the range of decks you have to be able to play well against every single possible matchup leaves you with a ton of information to absorb. And some people were obviously not too familiar with the decks that were running and how to play them against other archetypes. So that was one of the really big highlights, I want to say. So I guess, the meta game for being this deep into Old Gods was very diverse. To this day, I think like this is one of the more diverse metas and the more quote-unquote shifting metas we've had in a long time, this deep into an expansion. And I'm not sure exactly what to attribute it to, even though we don't have priests and paladins,
I think it's just been such a big change from like when the expansion came out, it was probably the biggest change that's ever happened in the game, to the point where expansions actually left, like the biggest expansion ever came in. So it basically, like at first all of our decks were pretty bad, and now that it's just taking like more time, I guess, to define a metagame and refine the decks. So I think that's why it's been kind of been variety for so long in the metagame, because you get to actually I don't know, discover like what's actually good over a longer period of time.
I think that's pretty much what's happening. Like, I'm just wondering if that trend's going to keep going with the next adventure, because we kind of do within a month or so for possibly another. Probably it's going to be an adventure as far as I'm aware. The issue is like we don't know the theme, and I don't know that we'll get that much variety after that one. Like, I feel like we'll take what we've already got now and mess with it a little bit, but like what they'd have to release to shake up the meta, holy shit! Like I don't know. I don't know what it would take.
Well, we kind of talked about this right before just the announcement of standard and things like that. Is we'll see a huge shift at the beginning of every year, and then the following 2 expansions and the venture / expansions will be just subtle changes, right? What we've seen for in the past. And I think we're going to reach that point where it's just like, okay, the next adventure will come out, and then we'll see just a little bit of stuff for about a month, and then it'll start stabilizing again. And we'll have to wait until whatever March or February, whenever the big shakeup happens again. But yeah.
So are we getting 2 more adventures this year? Or are we getting 1 adventure and then another big expansion?
I would guess it'd be one of each.
It's one of each, as far as I understand it. And then we lose BRM, League of Explorers, and TGT.
Okay.
We lose. Do we lose League? I guess we would lose League too. Wow, I didn't even expect that. I knew BRM and TGT, but wow.
League's gone as well.
Crazy.
That's the last one. Yeah, I mean, you're losing a ton with that. Like, Reno decks are out, of course. At least Star Seeker's out, Finley's out. Like,
it's really just out.
We lose Totem Golem, Tuskar Totemic. So like the era of Shaman with the rotation might just go back to dumpster tier. I don't know. Well, but like, what do you expect? Like, do you expect the expansion, like the adventure mode, to change much?
I don't know. I
Yeah,
mean,
it would be hard to say. I mean,
it
it's
depends on if it's made the way the League of Explorers was. Like League of Explorers is such a cool
Yeah.
adventure because it's probably some of the best designed cards in the history of the game. Discover Mechanic, which everyone loves. The card Reno, Bran, Elise, and Finley, all four legendaries, were insanely impactful and super unique and not oppressive. So it was just like probably the best expansion they've ever made. I don't know if they can do that twice, you know.
Yeah, it feels
In my
like it's
experience,
hard
Blizzard makes
to.
cards like Flame Juggler. Try not to too much.
We
Yeah.
could always have that, dude. Whenever you summon a totem, deal 2 damage at random.
Yeah. Oh man, that would be not good. Definitely not good.
1 mana, 1/3. You have to make it
yeah.
a 1 mana, 1/3.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anyways, getting back to StarLadder, why don't we take a look really quickly at Sixo's decks that he had, 4 of them. Let's see. The one that stands out to me the most was the Zoo deck. It was much faster than the Zoo deck that we've seen for a while. We've seen some faster ones too, but this was another level with Argent Commanders and Horse Riders and just lots of charge minions.
I think this deck wasn't really 6-0s initially. There's been a write-up by Dark Shadow and Censor on the competitive Hearthstone side, and they mentioned that 6-0 ended up taking the tournament with it. So it's not his list necessarily, but like every single Hearthstone deck, it tends to shift back and forth. This is a much more aggressive list with, I think, like the top deck potential of that deck is really fucking good. Like you lose Forbidden Ritual, you lose Darkshire Councilman, but the value of those Divine Shields is like just ridiculous. Lance Carrier looks like nothing until it sticks on like a 2/1 that got buffed by Young Priestess. Then suddenly it's a disaster. It's really tough to push off.
Yeah, Ray, this looks like your cup of tea right here. What do you think of this deck?
Which one? The Zoo?
Zoo, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of how that one's built. I've tried a lot of different Zoo lists, and if you're gonna build it that way, I'm more of a fan of like going full fist Atraxis and stuff. But this one's playing like random Argent Commander and stuff, which is just not very good. There's also no power overwhelming, so I would have I don't know. Like it's playing Lance Carrier, but then it's playing like Young Priestess instead of Possessed Villager. I actually think his deck is like
It's surprising.
really badly built. Yeah, well, it's not surprising. It's just a testament to like how little it matters the way you build Zoo. I get that like the justification for Young Priestess is it's a 2/1. You want to attack face. You want to get this damage in, but then like I don't know. You like don't have the power Leroy finish. Yep. The Zoo deck that I think is kind of better at doing this thing that this deck's trying to do is like with Azure Drakes and Mortal Coils.
Right, and Coil in it.
Oh,
sure.
wow. Okay.
But this one is like, I don't know, it's just like less efficient, I guess, at doing it. It's not even the right word. It's the kind of deck that just gets straight up beaten by like a Fiery War Axe. And because you're not playing things like Possessed Villager, like if you play Young Priestess and they play Tunnel Trog, you've lost the game, like on the spot. I mean, I don't know how
it's been kind of a trend. Like this deck, the way that I've seen it in the tournament work is usually don't give them trades, right? Like you let them trade into your stuff. Usually against aggro, the fact that you can get Divine Shields like kind of helps mitigate some of their upsides. It's usually about vomiting your deck. Like your hand, like you basically never go for like a life tap off curve, or like on curve where you'd rather play a minion. You literally vomit your hand. You just don't hold, and then you just draw Soulfires, go face. You draw Argent Commander against Warriors. It's really just good because of Warrior being so prevalent. Like even if the War Axe fucks you, usually you end up flooding them, and the 1 damage AOE actually doesn't fuck you as much from what we've seen. So it's just been.
Okay.
An interesting tweak on Zoo. Like again, I think the element of surprise was a big role in 6-0's general success. But the whole comeback potential of just being able to draw chargers off the top, it's pretty good. Yeah, no PO was weird.
Yeah, and just to sum it up for the folks listening and not can't really see this, there's 2 Young Priestesses in this, and an Argent Commander, a Bran Bronzebeard, no POs like they said, no Leroys. And there's actually Wrathguards in this too. So that's
no Councilman, no
Councilman,
Forbidden Ritual.
Yeah, no Giants or anything.
Even Wrathguard, worse than Flame Juggler, I think. Even in a strategy like this, and I tested a lot of Wrathguard. I'm like 90% sure it's worse than Flame Juggler. But yeah, even with my luck, it's worse than playing Juggler. It's like,
That's saying a lot, man. That's
but
saying
yeah,
a
but
lot.
that's the power of Zoo, man. It's just like
Yeah.
there's so many ways to build it, and it just matters so little. It's just such a good deck.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the notorious openers that Zixo got during the event was Young Priestess, Cohen Young Priestess. Like that was the beginning of the end
Oh,
already. Like
gosh.
when you get those nutty
Yeah,
openers, and that is like that's
that's
arguably
like
better
one of
than
the
double
best in the
flame imp.
game.
Yeah,
It's definitely better. Yeah.
so it's one of those things where like the overall performance of the deck is hard to evaluate with just a small sample, but the element of surprise alone will get you like one season of top 100 legend, let's say, I think, and then maybe you'll struggle in the next one when people know what the fuck's up.
Yeah.
So
All right.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
not sure.
yeah, the other decks, let's just take a look at the Shaman deck. This is pretty much the mid-range Shaman that's been going around. Has the Alakir at the end. Anything particularly stand out to you guys? I mean, if anything, it's like maybe one or two cards
Azure
weighted
Drake.
differently. Yeah, two Azure Drakes. That's true. Azure Drakes.
Yeah.
There's no 7/7s in this deck.
Yeah, this is Dangju's list. This is the one we have on the snapshot, I think.
Yeah.
Wins you tournaments.
Yeah.
From Charm.com.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good deck. I didn't like fully understand the Drakes because Lightning Storm seems to be like the only card that benefits, but
Right.
it's built for more like an attrition based play style, and it's definitely a very good deck. Like I definitely default to his judgment for Shaman. But yeah, like it's a great deck, really. I've played it myself, and
Yeah, me too.
yeah, every card choice is like very deliberate. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I found it really interesting because the turn 4 is never trying to play on curve, so that makes the overload that you get on 3 like a lot less of a pain in the ass. When you curve yourself like into a zoo early storm, then your turn 4 can definitely consist of hero power, or just any 2-drop. The fact that he's running 1 mana tide instead of this, like some people are running 2 nowadays, which is just super fucking greedy. I think that's just way too slow in many cases, and usually like it loses you certain matchups that you otherwise auto win.
Why run it
Yeah.
when you're gonna get one from Tuskar anyways, right?
You gotta get 2 from
You gotta get two from Tuskar.
Stormcrack, by the way, I guess like that's the one card that maybe a lot of people don't put in mid range, but like that card's just
Oh, that card's great. I love that card right now. Yeah.
it's ridiculously good, and I'm surprised it took so long for it to make its way into like so many decks. Like that card just seems like it's not a Crackle, but it's also not inconsistent. Like Crackle can feel sometimes, like you never get those crazy bad beats where
Deals
it
more
gets
damage than
down.
Crackle
It
every
does.
time.
Every time, yeah. Every time I play it, does more damage than my Crackles. That's for sure. And yeah, I mean, you kill Totem Golems with it 1-for-1, Tomb Pillagers if Rogue ever shows up, which, yeah, not
Oh,
happening.
that's been the big
Anything
thing.
Frothing Berserker.
Yeah, exactly. Frothing's been great to kill too with that thing.
Yeah.
So it's been a lifesaver, honestly. That card.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a massive difference between 4 damage and 3 damage. Like in the Shaman Mirror, especially, Totem Golem's the best card, so it's like
Yeah.
just absurd to.
What do you think
Have
about what do you think about dropping that lightning bolt and running just 2 storm cracks? Is there
That's
a
fine, too.
huge difference?
That's fine
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
I don't
think-
mind it, but you might need one,
think-
1 mana, 2 damage.
I think the only reason that the deck has the bolt is because it's playing Azure Drakes. It's like more flexible. You'd rather draw like one of each so that you can go Azure Drake Bolt on 6.
Mhm. Right.
But yeah,
That's true.
You run Blood Mage in here ever?
I don't know about that,
Yeah,
but
no, you have to add more spells, but I don't know where you'd find like room for that.
yeah, that's the hardest thing right now is to fit anything into this. I feel like you have to
Yeah.
drop something that's pretty important for what you're trying to achieve.
Drake probably would be
Yeah,
the cut.
yeah,
but I
Drake
don't
would
think
likely
it's-
be the. I think the Drakes are probably the first 2 things to drop.
I wouldn't cut it for Blood Mage.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, looking at the mage. So this is a Yoxeron just tempo type of mage, or the tempo mage that we've seen in the past. This deck's pretty popular right now. I don't think there's many differences than the one that we see. There's a polymorph in there.
There's a pretty big difference, actually.
Which one? Let me see.
Like, so there's been kind of 2 ways to build that
Drakes.
Tempo Mage, and it's kind of been the Kabbalist Tome approach over
yeah.
one elemental. Like, do I just play more spells, or do I play like the regular quote-unquote tempo? Try to get the minions on board and get them to stick. Like, this deck's running Archmage Antonidas at the top end, and it's kind of interesting because like it's like the whole water elemental list with Archmage Antonidas finds less of those spots to use the Archmage efficiently, I find, compared to the Kabbalist Tome list. Just because you end up using those spells so aggressively to keep your board during the game that you rarely have them later. So like you can't cheese out a win as regularly, I feel, against other tempo decks.
Okay. Ray, what do you think of this deck?
The mage.
Yeah.
It's I don't like the Antonitis. It is a good deck. Like overall, like all tempo mage lists are good. I'm not a fan of the Antonitis, and Yogg-Saron is a card that is definitely like very good in tempo mage, but I found that like if you are playing a faceless summoner list or just one that's playing like more minions than usual, then the card kind of underperforms a lot of the time. So yeah, it's tough to say like what the best late game finishers are because you have so many options. You can play like Ragnaros and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, it's definitely a good deck overall. Yeah, I'm a little sad to see Frost Collars not being played too much, but that's all right.
Yeah.
I think it fits this type of deck a little bit more. Like it's interesting because like the Archmage list we had. I think Naiman brought a similar list, and he was playing double tome, I think, over the water elementals and yada yada. Jab as well was playing the Tempo Mage, I think. Actually, Jab was the player with the Tempo Mage with Kabbalah's Tomes. And what's interesting is he actually had a deck that made Archmage work better since he was running more spells, and he actually identified a lot of spots where it was just correct to wait. But Sixo's list was an in-between that makes like the whole archetype a little bit awkward, I found. Like even Firebat bet that 6-0 would actually just get completely fucked up by even bringing that deck. Ended up not being the case since he took the event, but Firebat, by playtesting against 6-0, I think went like 12-0 over this specific Tempo Mage list. So definitely not the one that I think a lot of people would prefer running. Like I think it's an awkward in-between, and it's too slow to be a hybrid deck.
Okay. And finally, the Druid deck. This is a little bit of a difference too, given that there's no, as I guess instead of Wisps of the Old Gods, he decided to go Onyxia at the end just to fill the board and maybe get a combo with Savage Roar or even Power of the Wild. What do you think of this?
Yeah,
Reynad,
more like Scenarios was cut from Onyxia.
Yeah.
But
Is this a Rekful's list?
Oh, Rekful
think
came on
tell
this?
you.
Really?
I think
It's
Rekful's the
everywhere.
one that cut the Scenarios for Onyxia.
Yeah. Okay.
Sure.
But yes, yeah, it's a great deck. It's one of the highest win rates in the game right now, and definitely a deck that's I would say underplayed. There's no Druid of the Claw, but you can't really fit it because even the cards that look ridiculous, like Mulch and Feral Rage, like are pretty important. So yeah, very good deck though. Definitely solid.
So the fact
Yeah.
that two of these decks have Yogg-Saron in it, and with 6-0 winning is
Yeah,
that's
it's
pretty
a
much the
testament.
trend. Yeah, it's just a testament to
Testament to
Yogg-Saron.
Blizzard's. It's a testament to how many fucks Blizzard gives about competitive Hearthstone. Like that.
Yeah.
Like that card is cute, right? It's fun to play and everything, but like, did it need to exist exactly the way that it is? Maybe there's no way to balance an effect like that. I don't know.
Yeah, but I think like there were a few mentions. I remember Ben Brode mentioned like giving it overload when it casts a spell and whatnot.
That's-
Like it's a small change, but like ultimately, when you play Yogg, you either win or you just
Yeah.
get completely blown out afterwards by killing yourself on the back of it. So like adding the overload wouldn't really change.
How
the
often do you get
way-
an overload spell? It's
I haven't calculated, but the point is, like, would that even be enough to like mitigate its usefulness? And I'd argue that it just isn't. Like I don't mind Yogg being like a good card in general. I just like it's kind of weird that it's so highly consistent. Like when you run the probabilities of it making you come out ahead when you're so far behind. Like the gap between where you were before the Yogg and where you end up after the Yogg is just way too fucking huge. Like the spread is absolutely ridiculous on like how much that guy does. I think Yogg could have been cool if it cast a spell for each player instead of just one, because that way it's so one-sided.
oh that
Yeah.
would take forever. Holy
Yeah,
Sure,
but
but
that
you
way-
get the idea, right? Like it
Yeah,
evens out
yeah,
at least.
Yeah.
That way it would be a ridiculously fun card. Somebody would
Yeah.
still have fun by playing it, but it's not like just actually a neutral card that's better than Antonitis. Like the fact that most Tempo Mage decks play Yogg and don't play Antonitis is disgusting.
Yeah.
Like that's a mistake then. I don't know.
That's true. That's true. And there should, yeah, that's kind of the class legend, or at least the one that's defined the legend for Mage for a long time.
It's not gonna like stop being a deck, right? Like it's gonna be in standard for like another year, and
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's
Man.
not gonna it's not gonna go away.
The people that like don't watch Hearthstone super often, they'll like tune in once in a while and they'll see a card like Yogg-Saron being played, like a Yogg mirror match, and they're just like, what a joke of a game, and they'll tune out. And it's like that's what I'm worried about, you know.
You know what
Yeah.
you know what card they need to do? I should have made this in the Mekkatorque Workshop. They
Sure.
should make a card that prevents an old god from being played, because that's the issue I think with Yogg too, is that you can't do any. There's nothing preventative you can do.
Like, you can
against
play Mana Wraith, bro. Just have you can
okay,
play.
all right,
you know.
sure, yeah, you can
Yeah,
do
but
that.
people theorize that somebody would start playing Mana Wraith when the old gods were announced. The issue is like, gods just fucking awful.
Yeah.
You'd have to make like a 6, like let's say a 5 and a 4/7 that makes it so you can't play minions above 8 mana. But that kind of shuts down a lot of late game strategies. I wouldn't even hate it. It's just one of those limitation, I guess, types of cards or tech cards that really like can become obscene.
Yeah.
To tech, like when you're teching against specific decks.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, that's going to conclude the StarLadder segment. Why don't we move on to a new segment that we're introducing today, which is Mekkatorque's Workshop. This is something that Noxious has been doing for some time now, and we wanted to add it to Value Town too. And actually, Noxious, why don't you take the lead on this?
Sure. So Mekkatorque's Workshop's a show that I used to do a lot more often than I do it now. I mean, it's kind of something that I do on and off nowadays because I'm lacking time. But the general idea of the show is to come up with custom card ideas, just any random class or theme, and I pick one and just make a bunch of cards for them.
Mm-hmm.
I used to do that with the Shiv, and now that I'm doing it solo, it's taking a little bit more time. Plus, sometimes it's fun to have somebody to bounce ideas back and forth with.
Yeah.
In this case, though, I took 4 cards that I made over the course of the past 2 years, I guess, and just wanted to show them in the episode. And I think we'll have more of that happening every single episode. I'll show up with new cards that I haven't made yet. And it'll just be something to present and discuss, like the possibilities of what can be done in Hearthstone. Again, billions of, just about honestly anyone can come up with a card idea. The issue is like, how much of a balanced card is it? So when I look at Blizzard's development style, at this point, I used to be way cautious about this, like the balancing of stat lines and stuff. Nowadays, I just realize sometimes they're kind of winging it as well. It's just like they slap on a stat line on like Challenger 6/6. So I'm just like, you know what? Let's just make cards and like stop like worrying about fucking trying to balance it.
Hey, when you're
perfectly, 'cause
brainstorming,
it doesn't work.
Brainstorming,
Sure.
just like throw ideas out. And,
So those are brainstormed ideas,
Yeah.
and I hope you guys enjoyed the cards. The first one that you see on the screen is King Begurgle. So following the Murloc theme, I guess, of the new Shaman hero. It's a 3-mana 3/3. Whenever you play a card with Overload, you summon a Puddle Stomper. So it's really just kind of like some kind of Vile Teacher, but for Murlocs, for Murloc decks. There was no purpose to making it specifically Overload. It was meant to work with the Siltfin Spirit Walker, which summons, draws you a card when the Murloc dies.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, it's just to maybe incentivize people to play Murlocs more. The issue is like it's playable in every Shaman deck ever, no matter what it is.
Yeah, like this would just be an easy add. Like this.
Sure.
This is basically a better version of Unbound, right?
It's kind of Razorfen Hunter, where you play like on turn 4 instead. You play it 1 turn later, and you get the value from the Overload, let's say Lightning Bolt, and then you get an extra 3/2 on top. And then whenever you play another Overload on top of that, it just becomes a complete clown fiesta. But it's kind of like a powerful Violet Teacher, I guess, with a slight drawback.
Puddle Stomper's pretty strong, though. It's a pretty big
It's a
one.
3/2.
Yeah,
I don't know.
but that,
I guess.
I mean, most Overloads are like 1 or 2, right? So you're essentially getting a 2-mana drop for
Most
that.
Overloads are 1 or 2.
Yeah, like
I like it.
No, are they?
Lightning Bolt, Crackle, Feral Spirit.
Well, that's 3. I mean, you mean?
I'm talking about the Overload itself, right?
Yeah,
So
but
it
this doesn't summon a Puddle Stomper per overloaded crystal. Like, this is not a Tunnel Shrog.
Oh, it's just a single Puddle Stomper. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah, okay. I thought it has one like per
No.
Overload.
Fuck
It's like,
off.
God,
Fuck
that's
off.
pretty
That would be
Okay.
ridiculous.
Okay. All right,
No,
Ray,
no.
you like this card?
Yeah, man. Shaman doesn't have enough good cards.
Yeah.
Next expansion.
It would be
Curve
cool.
this into my underpowered flame wreath. We
My
good.
underpowered
Get 2/3/2s on top of your 4-mana 7/7.
yeah.
Doctor Faceless.
But to your, I guess to the theme of it, it would be nice to see some shaman murlocs, given that there are shaman murloc cards, and as well as the new hero is also a murloc too. So yeah, that would be good to see.
Yeah, but again, like you have to take these cards in a specific context as well. Like the current state of Shaman was not what it was when I made this card. We had no thing from below.
Yeah.
We had no crazy totem golems and whatnot. It was a much quieter time in Hearthstone.
Okay, next one we got Rabid Ogre.
So that's just a really high stat card with a huge drawback. So it's a 2-mana 4/4 neutral, 50% chance to attack your hero instead of an enemy. So what this guarantees is that, unlike Ogre Brute, you can't actually just remove all their minions and never hit the wrong target. Which, with the 3-mana 4/4 Ogre Brute, sometimes happened. You isolated the board and you could just swing it face. It wasn't even that great then, but this is just another more proactive Ancient Watcher, I guess.
Okay, that's cool. Like one of those cards that maybe we'll see some light in. I would think like Arena more so than Constructed.
I don't know, man.
It'd be interesting to
two-mana
attack my
4/4.
own face.
It's a 2-mana 4/4.
Yeah. What do you think of this, Ray?
Oh man.
Flame Juggler.
I don't know. There's no like turn 3 coin flips. The design is interesting.
Yeah.
There's got to be I would make it. This is the thing. I don't like early game RNG. I think it's like really bad for the game. So what I would do is make it like
4-mana 7/7.
Like an 8-mana 30/30.
Okay, I like that.
Oh my god, 8 minutes.
Like that's
literally a
it's, like,
coin flip
still
to win the
exciting.
game or not.
This is a. Isn't that worse than a Yogg? I guess it's not Battlecry, right? So they can always opt to let you take the coin flip or not.
Wow.
8-mana 30/30.
Yeah,
That's more than a Rapid Ogre, dude. We're gonna need a new name for it because
that would actually be terrible for you.
It's no longer an ogre at that stage, but
all right.
sure. But yeah, like it's one of those just interesting drawback cards. I was working on a bunch of drawback base cards, and that was one of them.
Okay.
Which I thought was pretty cool.
All right. Next up, we got Reforestation. I guess it would be a Druid card, of course. Draw a card for each treant you control.
Yeah. So one of the things that I think Blizzard should do more is probably publish treant cards. Like I think
it could be
that
like a
specific tribal is really cool. Like Scenarios, Poison Seeds, Soul of the Forest. Force of Nature even nowadays. Like I think there's a huge potential there they could tap into instead of just leaving it, I guess, dormant. I don't know how much they want to make treants as standalone cards. Like, does an Ancient of Lore or Ancient of War count as a treant? I personally like it to be the case, but they haven't really shown any desire to make that happen. So a 3-mana card that draws you a card for each treant you control would have to have a bunch of supporting cards in it. But I guess as long as you have Soul of the Forest and Force of Nature in the core set, that card could also exist and probably do some decent work in certain archetypes. It's kind of like a Cult Master, I guess. If you've played Soul of the Forest, you have your stuff still alive. Trade it away, then draw a bunch. Could be worth it.
Yeah, I think you get away with making it cost 2 even.
Sure.
It's just at least the current cards that are out. But yeah, I like it.
Yeah, creating a treant tribe would be.
I'd love it.
Pretty interesting too. I mean, right now they still haven't even completed the Beast one, in my opinion, just for Druid. So, adding another one, that'd just be like even more things for them to have to do.
So, are you saying Druid of the Fang, the 5-mana 7/7 conditional card, is not a good card?
I wish it was a good card. It can be a good card, but it's still.
I'll stop you right there.
Right,
Flamer the Spaceless.
Right. Yeah, so I'd like to see it. It's definitely it matches the theme for sure. Just Druids, treants have always been a big part of Druids, and drawing cards is actually it would be a great thing actually for Druids. I think that'd be
as long as they don't have everything. Yeah, like the fact that they don't necessarily have like a specific tribe to them right now. I think it's kind of a bummer that they have to share beasts with Hunter so much. I'm not a huge fan of it.
All right, last one we have is Bog Paddle Trickster, which is a rogue card.
Oh man. Okay, so this is a
Yes.
card that actually like I overstated as hell because I was pretty like Blizzard came up with I forget which card that was just a completely broke. I think Challenger came out and I was like, you know what, let's make an episode. Um, and that's one of those cards I made as a crazy overstated. So it's a 3-mana 5/4 stealth minion. And Battle Cry, you literally take a card from your deck and you give it to your opponent, so you thin your deck, and that card will cost 0. So you can give them one of the outs you are counting on getting, if you're trying to count for lethal, and they get to play it for 0. So obviously it's more fit for aggressive decks because most of the cards you will give them are going to be cheap and very low impact. But as a result, that also means you cheapen the overall power of your deck by having so many low cost cards to make the odds a lot better. So. It's a trade-off.
I think it's balanced.
Yeah, it's like it depends really like the type of rogue deck you're running. The rogue has a lot of trouble keeping the card draw up when when they end up playing a bunch of cheap cards. So if you make a deck filled with cheap cards, this is basically the only hope you have of making the damage come out, right? So at that point, unless rogue gets a crazy card engine that is not sprint, then yeah. I think this is kind of okay.
I mean, the concept of actually giving a card or giving a card to your opponent or your opponent stealing a card, I feel like it's something that they've been avoiding for a while. But I wish they would add it to some degree, and this would be an interesting way to do it.
Stealing a card is different, right? Like that feels bad. Somebody steals your card, it's like I got my own game plan completely disrupted. But if you give me one of your cards voluntarily, that's kind of a different state because you're the one disrupting your own strategy and potentially getting punished for it, as opposed to literally stealing my only win condition. Let's say you steal my Elite Star Seeker when I'm playing like a control deck. Fuck you. In a nutshell, that's kind of why Blizzard is not willing to make the whole stealing thing happen.
I kind of like it.
What? Just the stealing?
Yeah, like if you're the one doing it, like of your own volition, should be fine. Like I don't think they would be against that too much.
Yeah, I doubt it.
I mean, I think if it was prevalent, people would just build around it, right? You just wouldn't have a single.
Yeah, but how
win
bad
condition.
is your deck? Oh, you mean if I could steal stuff?
Yeah, I mean, if your opponent can steal stuff, you just you don't run a single, like a I don't know.
That is
Cthulhu.
horrible, though. That is horrible. I don't like that.
Mhm.
I don't think it's a good because the thing is like it's a let's say 1 in 20 in some stages of the game.
Yeah.
Like a 1 in 20 of let's just take. I mean, it's not like it doesn't happen now, but it would be even worse in that case. I think, especially if the card is well statted, for instance.
Yeah.
It would feel really bad.
All right. Well, that's good. I mean, thanks for putting those 4 cards together, and we'll try to put some, more, just some more together in the future weeks too. I'm sure we can come up with some priest cards. I mean, that I think that would be pretty interesting to try to come up with, and I'll definitely try to put some together too myself next time. Why don't we talk about some fun decks? I think we talked a little bit about some of the decks you were running, Ray. How about you, Noxious? Have you run any decks while you've been in China, or?
Yeah, I tried out the Yogg Druid, but like it's just a standard type of list. I haven't really gone. I went back to Yogg Hunter. I just keep going back to that deck whenever. So I guess I tried to build like honestly gazillion priests. Ben Brode mentioned that priests had a viable archetype lurking somewhere. I don't buy it at all. I think that's just that's plain wrong. I actually don't think they've got it. Or if they do, it's the same shit as like that famous beast deck that required Hemet to be printed. Like it's just bad, and they just. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong.
I wasted a week trying to do that after he trolled us with that tweet. Me and Firebat, I think
he
both
just
wasted
trolled
a
everyone,
week.
dude.
We wasted a week trying to get a freeze deck to work.
Yeah.
And,
Did you try that, Reynad, or
Priest deck?
did you try Ben Brode? Like he trolled us
Dude,
by saying that was a viable deck.
Dude, I've heard they were considering nerfing. Like before Tunnel Trog was a card, when they were just gonna make Totem Golem. What expansion was that? Grand Tournament?
Yeah.
Grand Tournament, yeah.
I heard they were considering nerfing Totemic Might before the Grand Tournament.
Okay.
Because Totem Shaman was winning too much without Tunnel Trog.
Fuck this.
And so I take that with a massive grain of PJ Salt. It's not.
Jesus.
There's no way.
I was not aware of that one. Like I was aware of Hemet being made to counter that
What?
beast deck that was
Totemic
broken,
Might.
but I wasn't aware of the Totemic Might nerf. That one is gold.
Wow.
I'll have to add that to my list of. Here's why you should not expect the in-game.
It was
I mean,
your
the-
fault, Ray. Like I remember when you were running that one totem deck, right, where you had
Yeah.
it was your freaking fault, dude.
Oh, Reynad.
man.
You invented
It's
Hearthstone, so it's no surprise.
Well, there's one deck that I've been playing. I've been playing this. I found this deck on Hearthstone's Rednad's top. It's like a dragon deck, but the only difference is that it's mainly it's running Onyxia. There's little things like there's only one Ichor in it, and there's a Fierce Monkey, but Onyxia and Deathwing actually at the end of it has been an interesting ending. Like given the current meta game that when I've played it, it's actually been really really good. So I just figured I'd throw that out there just for folks to try out. You can see it here. Definitely will link it to you guys in chat too if you guys want to try it out. And then I've also just been playing that shaman deck that Firebat threw out to us like last week. That N'Zoth with ancient ancestral spirit and faceless and all that stuff. Oh my god, that deck is so fun to play.
Yeah, the Return of Crusher Shaman is a thing. I've seen it on ladder a few times too. Now, as far as the Dragon Warrior deck though, like he's playing one Blood Iker,
Yep.
and one Azaz First Mate, one Fairy Dragon, and not two.
Yep.
Like his top end is really heavy, and he's running only one Draconic Crusher. Like I get the feeling sometimes the Draconic Crusher kind of acts as a late game threat, and I don't know like if subbing it out necessarily for more expensive stuff works on ladder, but maybe I'm not looking at this right. What do you think?
It's just of the deck in general. I mean,
Yeah.
that's really good. One of the best decks in the game. Yeah, but I mean, Dragon Warrior was good since
It's been weeks now. It's been good, right?
well, not just
No,
weeks,
before
but
that,
long
before that,
before
yeah.
Firebat for like since the expansion came out. There's a Chinese list that was the first one that had this show.
Yeah, I remember.
The only thing Firebat changed, to my knowledge, from that Chinese list was adding the Zoth's First Mate, and then that made the Zoo matchup go from close to very good.
And then he cut it out because he said it wasn't good enough.
Yeah, so it's literally the Chinese list that was out like a month before that. So it's a great deck. Don't get me wrong. It's super good. Probably the best deck on ladder overall, I guess. If I were to recommend to somebody to play a deck on ladder, I'd probably say that. It's very good.
It's actually surprising how often Onyxia and Deathwing win you games too, with the current meta. So give that a try, and let me know how it goes for you guys.
Oh wait, there's Onyxia and Deathwing in this one.
Yeah,
He's
there's
playing
Onyxia
Onyxia,
and Deathwing.
Deathwing,
that's
and
the other
Ragnaros at the top, and he's playing 4 big threats. Like that's kind of the big difference in the way this deck plays out.
I guess it's to beat the like Cthulhu Warriors. That makes sense.
Yeah, must be exactly that.
And just to beat other Dragon Warriors, I think it does decent against too. Like the ones that don't run those at the end, you can actually clear. If they don't have executes and things, it actually does pretty well too. You can get in those weird situations where there's crushers on the board, and I mean they're gonna win easy, and then you can just wipe that board. I think Firebat was even running at the very end of last season to beat Dragon Warriors too, just the Deathwing. So that was definitely an interesting ad. Okay,
You
well,
get Zoo too.
Yeah, Zoo. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, if you ever play Deathwing and Zoo, you win. It's pretty good.
It's nice. There's so many Zoos still out there. It's like forever a deck.
Yeah, it's the only the one thing I'm not sure about is the Fierce Monkey over a second copy of Blood to Iker. Like that's the one thing I'm not a huge fan of.
It's
Or
probably
even,
just
like I mean, there's a lot of subs you can do in this type of deck, which is great. Which is why we've seen so much Dragon Warrior around. It's like people have their own little custom lists, and like changing one card in the deck actually modifies what you win against.
Yeah, the base deck is so good. It's just changing 3 or 4 cards and still being incredibly good winning percentage. All right, well, go ahead.
Sorry, go.
No, go ahead, Ray.
I was just gonna say Alex Shaw's champion is like the best minion in the game.
So good.
If it hits, like,
Yeah.
And everyone knew that when it came out. It's just the support cards weren't there, and not just the support cards weren't there, but every other deck was just too strong to play champion. But yeah, now it's just nuts.
Yeah, no, Haunted Creeper not being around. Like, there's a lot of. I think that the fact that minions didn't die made it too weak to just the leftover stuff, which Nowadays, I mean, that's not even an issue. So you kill something for good with that minion, and if they don't kill it, then you deal like 6 damage at the very least to their face, which is ridiculous. That is
Well,
like the pressure that guy puts in is ridiculous.
not just that, you can actually get 2 for 1s with that card too, which
Sure.
is crazy as a 2-drop.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, well, I think that's gonna be it for deck talk, guys. We're gonna go straight into viewer Q&A. So if you guys got any questions for us, I think I got maybe 1 or 2 on Twitter. You can go ahead and write them in Twitch chat too, and I'll try to get to them. Let's see. T. Jefferson asks about Yogg. Shouldn't 10 mana cards have high effect? Huge effect. Sorry, huge effect that can win you games but lose if they deal with it. Deathwing is like similar. I guess Deathwing is the example he gives you.
Yeah, Deathwing's a great example, but Yogg-Saron is like, there shouldn't be a card that's just neutrally available that's better than class cards in like every way. So, like, how do I describe it? It's just like the fact that there's a card, the fact that Antonidas is a card, and Tempo Mage decks still play Yogg-Saron instead of Antonidas, like that's a problem. Like then you made the card too good. So yeah, they should have toned it down a little bit and had it have the opponent, do stuff. But like, because you can have bad cards in the game, right? You can have like Boogie Monster or whatever, and this can just be an exciting Boogie Monster. If you get sick of Ladder and you want to do something trolly and fun, you can still play Yogg-Saron. And like, if your opponent plays spells, maybe it would even be better if your opponent played spells. I don't even know if that would nerf it.
I was gonna say like it might just kill himself, at the end of the day. So
yeah, maybe each of you play like 50% of the spells, or you at random both players play 10 spells combined or something. I don't know, but there's a way to balance it where it's not like just better than class cards that are already just strong. So yeah, like nobody's gonna tell you Antonidas is a bad card. The fact that they make something that's like not just better, but like significantly better on average, that you cut Antonidas and you play Yogg instead, that's not okay.
Yeah. I almost wish Yogg-Saron had been made as like a 10 mana spell for a class or another. Like you pick one class to give it to, and you're like, you know what, just take it. Like as a spell itself, or even a body, because it's kind of like the Doctor Boom effect, right? Where that card, if it were a mage legendary, was fine, but because it was made as like a neutral fucking legendary, then it was just like oppressive for a long time. And I don't want it to be the case with Yogg, because we've got a lot of time with it. Like we're still like midway through the year. We still got a ton of time before the rotation hits, and Yogg-Saron is still going to be around after that. So if it ends up being just like a staple card, I really don't want it to feel oppressive like at any point. And we don't know what the fuck they're going to be printing. Like maybe it just won't be as good soon enough. But with the current state of it, it'd be surprising to find a counterplay.
The problem is, like, the honest truth is Blizzard doesn't see it as a problem, like, and rightfully so. Like they want to cater to the majority of their player base, which is more casual players. So when they see, like, for the first month of Whispers being out, the fact that there's a Yogg-Saron post on the front page with 1 million upvotes like 3 times a day, to them that's a success. To them that's a card that they designed well. So
I see.
And they're not wrong in that, but it's just like, if you care about competitive play at all, it's just like, God, like, would those posts still be on Reddit if card wasn't good?
And it was just hyper random and sickeningly fun, right? Like the whole both players play spells. If that ends up evening it out, then it would still be there.
It'd still be there
in the end. Mm-hmm. So.
Okay. So one thing that we hadn't talked about, actually, that I was meaning to talk about too, that we can go back to is, they had a patch, right? We had a patch that had we had a patch that had a lot of, well, not a lot of things, but the biggest thing was like the whole share with friends type of mechanism tools that let me show you that they are putting into the game, and just kind of encouraging folks to let other people know about Hearthstone and rewarding you for that. So recruit a friend is what they're calling it, and you can get the new Shaman Hero if you recruit somebody and they get 20 combined levels across all classes. So I guess general thoughts on just this whole share a friend mechanism.
I don't have the Shaman yet, man.
Me neither.
Feels bad.
Yeah, I'm doing it now though. I recruited myself. I'm gonna be conceding against my recruit a friend account exactly 8 times, everything but mage, and then I'll be conceding 2 games per class, and I'll be at 20. It's gonna be like a 10-minute thing after tutorial, and I'll be done with it. So that's kind of a big thing about the whole recruit a friend. That it's like an extension of what they did in World of Warcraft. I mean, every game does it nowadays. It feels so. It's like there's no big surprise there if they're aiming to recruit people. At least MMOs do, and like this is them future proofing it, because like this might not seem relevant to us now because who gives a shit about recruiting a friend? Everybody who already plays Hearthstone or who's ever going to play it soon is already playing it. Like you're not going to bait someone by telling them, hey dude, I can recruit you for a free pack. Nobody gives a shit. It's like they won't come in because suddenly you're getting stuff out of it, and I don't think people will get a bigger kick out of recruiting players because of that. What might happen is you just made extra accounts.
Yeah, I mean, this is more of just, again, a promotion for these heroes, and I wish I could just buy the heroes. Like, I don't really want to go and, play World of Warcraft if I don't want to, and, this type of thing too. I mean, this isn't as bad because it's obviously promoting Hearthstone too, so it's definitely folks I can, recruit. But I just wish I could just buy them whenever I want them and do that.
There's like a free way and a way.
Just stop. It's cool that it's free, but sometimes I just don't want to do those things, and I don't even mind paying the $5, $10 and getting it. So I don't know. I wish they would do both. You can do it this way and get it free, or you can just put it up in the store, and that would be great.
Yeah, actually, that makes sense because like they're already doing that with card packs. Like you either buy the fucking things or you grind your life out just to get a golden boogie monster like once every year. So I mean, there's already that two-way, like that two-speed system implemented. So I don't dislike it, especially since in this case there's no cross promotion. It's literally just Hearthstone.
Yeah.
But if they expect you to recruit an actual new player, like an actual person that's not yourself, if that's a thing, then they expect more than $10 out of that other player, right? Like if it's actually a new player coming in, the odds of them not spending that $10 must be lower than them spending that $10, which is why they're okay with just making it absolutely about the recruitment.
So recruiter friend is something. I mean, it's necessary. It's something that they probably should have had in the game earlier, just to again try to just acquire people, right? Like just get new users and things like that. So totally see the necessity of it. With these patches and these releases, I just wish they were bigger. If you're gonna do heroes, do like 6 of them, do all 9 of them. Do something, that feels like a release and it feels like something new for us while we're waiting for the next adventure and things like that. With these one at a time type of things, it doesn't do anything for me. It's just kind of like, oh, okay, another one, and read it for a day and it's over for me. And right now, just I don't know. I feel like we're in dire need of something kind of new coming out and feeling good. So it would have been nice that way. Ray, what do you think about this whole recruiter friend?
I mean, yeah, it's something that definitely should have been in the game earlier. Good that it exists now. I don't know. I don't really much either way. Like it's cool. I think it's good for the game. Yeah, it's Murloc Hero right? Finally.
Yeah, Murloc Hero. Yeah. Murloc Hero.
Yeah, I guess we just need Huffer now for hunters. Like the third hero is just gonna be a big fat boar.
So some of the other changes. See, Celithith Swarmer's now a beast. Look out, guys! It's the beast now. Makes sense given that what it actually is. Should be a beast. So Noxious, you were talking about like Houndmaster and stuff like that, and I'm
give it time, like, give them support. Like honestly, you give Hunter like a Glazuka-like weapon, and they have bow to play with it, and suddenly it's not a rogue, so obviously it's not nearly as consistent. But if there's ever some kind of weapon play that can be done with Hunter, then that card is not nearly as like disgustingly bad as it is right now. Like Houndmaster, it's a 5/7. It's of course worse than carrying Grub because you can't actually attack with it unless you have a weapon equipped. But the issue is like 3/5 is a lot more annoying to smash your stuff into it than a 2/5.
Yeah, I still see it more as an Ancient Watcher than anything else, but
sure.
Yeah, maybe again those type of passive decks will become popular again.
Yeah, why
Another
not? Maybe one day.
another change is the experience bar will no longer fill up while winning a game at max level. And my comment to that is, why not just give us more levels so like it can actually fill up every time we win?
But
I've
what do
been
you want?
I've been asking for like more like levels forever now, and I just don't see why it's such a hard thing to do. I
Do
mean,
you just want numbers, or do you want like something tied to it?
I
Because
mean, even
if it's
even
just
something
levels, it's pretty meaningless,
even if
dude.
it's something tied, just something simple tied to it. I mean, it could even just be packs, or I don't even care at this point. It's just like something, at least from the standpoint of progression, that all the folks that have already reached, 60 and everything, and golden heroes and everything, we're
You
just
get a golden weapon.
they, yeah, exactly. Golden card back or something, right? I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of us just sitting there like with nothing to do progression wise, and it doesn't seem like such a hard thing to expand, and it's been like this for year and a half for some folks.
I
So
mean, yeah, I'm kind of annoyed like
mhm.
about the whole like I really hope that this isn't like this patch isn't their way to push like social interaction between
No,
players.
I don't. Mm.
But it sounds like one to me because they've been talking about how they'd like to have that kind of thing added to the game, but they have to be careful about how they do it. And now they're kind of like incentivizing you to play against your friends. The issue is like I just it doesn't feel like necessarily like a good way to get a new portrait. Or if the intent is to push people to play with one another because it increases player retention and like overall good feels, I just don't know if that's gonna work.
I wonder what the statistics are about people playing each other. Just like playing your friends, because I know generally, I don't do that very often, to be completely honest.
Playtesting,
Yeah, I mean,
sure, but that's it, really.
yeah.
So,
What percentage of my entire Hearthstone play is that? It's very, very, very little. So it being social, I don't even know, exactly what they need to do to make it social at this point, because it does feel like a very solitary game, right? I mean,
I mean, you just roll back to StarCraft Boudoir. And, suddenly you've got a social system, but
well, the closest thing
it's
we
not.
have is just co-op kind of things, right? Co-op arenas, and then a lot of some of the top players, they'll have some sessions on ladder, right, where they're just chilling out. It's mostly just kind of a hangout together on Skype, and then they're kind of playing at the same time. But that's like that's like the closest thing, and that doesn't actually need to be even in the game, right? So it's, I don't know, maybe Hearthstone probably isn't meant to be that social, to be honest. I like people to get together locally, and for that it to be social maybe in that way, but online, I don't
With
know. I don't really
Pokemon Go,
see it
it's more
anymore.
likely to happen. So maybe they'll have you move to a Pokemon location to play Hearthstone.
maybe, maybe, I don't know. All right, why don't we get back to some of these questions, and we'll take a couple more, and then we'll call it a day. All right, it says, I Buck Main asks, what's the best mid-range hunter approach? Is there a deck that stomps control but also competes against Zoo and Shaman? Well, that's a magic question, right? Because if you have something that beats control and beats Zoo and Shaman, then you've got like the best deck in the game right now.
I think, yeah, go ahead, Reynad. I'm sure you've got a lot to say on the matter.
Not really. It's just like the nature
Uh,
of card games, right? Like no deck can beat everything because if it does, then it's broken, and you'd be complaining about it. So
Yeah.
just pick some decks you do want to beat, and then there are definitely archetypes that do well against those.
Yeah.
yeah.
Pick whatever decks occupy over 50% of the metagame, and then just pick something to beat that. Mid-range hunter's just generally good, though. I think mid-range hunter's always
Well, we
does
had an
well
interesting
against.
game in this. Now that I think about it, in StarLadder, I think Doctor Hippie brought a hunter that was like a hybrid, but not as heavy on the low drop. So it was like a kind of an in between, and it was running a high main in it, double tiger, um,
Mm.
no abusives. It was running like one dire wolf alpha, double juggler, double unleash, and whatnot, and the Argent Squires, I think. But it wasn't running like the abusives on top, and it was kind of that hybrid with a top end that's a bit bigger than the usual hybrid. Like the double tigers were kind of interesting. So, like hybrid hunter is kind of a weird beast to toy around with, and I'm not sure it would ever get to that point again. where it beats everything at once. It was like a small pocket of the metagame a while back that allowed for that, but it's hard to imagine.
All right. A Dark Luigi asks, can Rafam be viable in rogue decks that can give you 3 or more powerful artifacts? Maybe we can expand it just to Rafam in general. Like, you see Rafam ever making it into the metagame? Ray?
I think it's just too slow. The problem is, like, as a finisher, it's only good against control, and then even against control, Sarah's probably better. So it's like,
right.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just too slow. That's the problem. It's not. I don't know. If it gave you all 3, then it's kind of interesting because then you have.
Oh wow.
The thing is, you need to be able to have the +10/+10 one without
The gimmick of
the risk of like it being a brick. So you need to be able to threaten lethal off of playing that card, I think. Yeah, right now it's not really an option. You can't like, I don't know how to describe it. You can't like be threatening the pyroblast, but then if they kill all your minions, still flood the board with 3/3s. So yeah, I think if it gave you like 2 of them or something at least, it could be pretty good.
Yeah, so I kind of like the response. I mean, it makes sense. What if it was like a 10-mana 10/10 that gave you like the 10 cost spells that do stuff at 10? Like it's super on theme, like all the way through with 10 everywhere. And it's kind of a single-handed win condition because it spreads what you can get. If you get more than one, of course. So
Yeah, that could maybe
yeah,
be.
I kind of like that. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I
Well,
mean, wait. Before we move on, like, I want to again go back to the Rafam. Like, the whole point of Onyxia is to kind of do what Rafam tries to do. By the way, like in many decks, the whole flooding the board and threatening pressure. Rafam's trying to do that, but it's like splitting itself into 19 mana, which Onyxia doesn't. So yes, it's more vulnerable to board clear, but like very often, if Rafam dies, then you have to do the exact same thing. You're still vulnerable to board clear on the turn after Rafam. So it's just you're giving them like one extra turn to put it together. And usually if Onyxia sticks, like you're in a pretty fucking good spot. So
all right, last question. Geronimo LL123 asks, does Blizzard consult with you before making large changes to the game? If so, do they ever have they ever took some of your ideas implementing them into the game? How about you guys? They definitely don't consult me. Like, how about you, Ray? Do they consult you?
They did for the like the standard wild rotation. Yeah, they're really receptive. They brought us into the campus, asked a lot of questions, listened to our feedback, did the exact opposite of what we suggested, and yeah, it was. No, they're actually pretty receptive feedback. The Hearthstone team is one of the more forward thinking in Blizzard, and yeah, they definitely respect the community a lot because they, when they're just working on the game at the offices, like they're always watching Twitch streams and stuff. They're very much just fans of the game. Yeah, but at the end of the day, like there's a reason they're making the game and we're not, right? Like everyone has their own bias on the things they want out of a game, and as like a streamer or a pro player, you're gonna want cards like Yogg-Saron to not exist, for example. But then a lot of the casual players love that, and the casual players are like, there's way more of them, and yeah, they're just trying to balance a lot of different goals with the game all the time. So they just because we give feedback doesn't necessarily mean that they're gonna change the way they develop their game based on that, and rightfully so. Like they shouldn't always listen.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Any card that you've given feedback on, or just general design that you've seen produced?
The card reveals they're very stingy with. They showed us League of Explorers like a month before it was out or something, which was cool. I said Tunnel Trog was going to be the best card, and then I said Elise was really cool. But that's it. Like there wasn't. All the cards remained the same. Like I didn't. The balance was good in that expansion.
Okay.
Well, Finley. They weren't sure what to do with Finley for a long time, and because they were gonna make it discover hero power, but they were like, that's not very. Didn't feel very like thematic for Finley necessarily, and I was like, it should discover a monocle piece, and then the monocle should do something. And I don't know. They didn't listen to that though. No monocles.
They stuck with the
No
hero
monocle
power.
equipment.
Yeah.
That would have been cool though.
Yeah. Noxious, how about you? Like, I know you throw out like ideas all the time. You've thrown it out since like before beta.
Yeah,
so,
I mean it's I feel like they've definitely watched a lot of the content that just in general people produce. So it's not as though they're not aware of what people make. But the issue is like how much of that they even like. There's so much you can do in Hearthstone that like them suddenly doing exactly what you suggest or what you propose is like very, very unlikely. Like for instance, rotation happened in the like one of the most fucked up ways. Like the only way that wasn't suggested is the one they picked, which is really odd to me. Like because it is like one of the weirdest possible rotation systems, and like I wonder how much of their hesitation to do what people suggest influences their design decision. And maybe the caution with which they design stuff just in general, right? Like they're very cautious overall. Like I feel like they keep talking about the brainstorming sessions that they get, and then they have to tone down, do balanced passes, and they toy around with like concepts and review everything. But like a lot of that brainstorming just doesn't seem to like transpire just in general, and that's a good thing for the most part because you end up having a lot of broken cards that don't appear. But all these crazy ideas feel like they're just never acted upon, or at least very little. So I guess like they've watched the stuff that I've done. They've obviously, I think Ben Brode, fully recognizes how long I've been around, but like they never consult on anything.
Yeah.
The further back I can remember mentioning anything was like Eric Dodds before the game came out in some podcast that was around back when the simulator was around, and we suggested tournament mode, we suggested spectator mode, we suggested nerfs to Druid. We like all the nerfs that happened to Druid were suggested like in alpha or beta, whatever. Like even Force of Nature. They ended up changing Nature instead of Savage Roar, which we'll see whether or not that sticks around in the future.
Right.
Like they hear, but they are like there's so much more than one person to take into account.
Okay.
I think is the issue.
Well,
long tangent, but
yeah.
That's
Yeah,
really
I mean, the thing, just I guess the moral of the story is they do listen, but in terms of just specific kind of feedback, I think it's very few and far between that we've actually seen any kind of any of that feedback become a card or anything like that. All right, well, why don't we close out the show? Thanks for the questions, everybody. Thanks for everybody for watching. Noxious, you want to start the shout outs for us?
Sure. Shout out to Complexity and yourself for making the content, of course.
Yeah.
I'm too tired to think of shout outs to make, so shout outs.
Yeah. Shout outs to Chinese Airlines. Would you like to?
Fuck that. Fuck that. Yeah, a big anti shout out and fuck Air Canada.
Yeah, it's Air Canada. My bad.
Just fuck it.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm done.
Ray, shout outs.
Shout out to Team Instinct. Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
Team
I
Instinct.
concur.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice.
It's the only team. Yeah.
Yep.
That's it.
You're all
Nothing
Team
else
Instinct.
worth
Oh my god,
shouting
you
out.
guys are all Team Instinct too. That's funny, man.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Better be.
Value Town Team Instinct, baby. There you go. All right, nothing else. Okay, I guess it's my
That's
turn.
all I got, man.
That's all
That's
you
what-
got. Okay,
He's
cool,
fucking
man.
done. You
That's
can see it in his face. He was done there.
It's cool. All right, big shout out to you guys, obviously, for doing the show with me, and everybody for watching. I did want to give a quick shout out to some of the folks on Patreon. We do have a patron for the show at patreon.com/valuetown. If you guys want to support the show, think about making a pledge there. It'd be awesome and really appreciate it if you do. But I do want to give a shout out to some of the patrons we already have: Lucas Capdeville, Dustin Demare, Nicholas Larry Vieira, Atomic Junkie, Jacob Perez, Ninja Fada, Eric Lynn, Michael Lucy. Thanks so much for being patrons, and some of you guys have been patrons for a while, so definitely kudos to you guys for that. And then I would like to give a shout out to Mostaza for the last 5-star review on iTunes. Those of you that listen, a lot of people actually listen to the show. If you guys want to support the show, you feel free to leave a review, and 5-star review. It helps the show, or helps people find the show too, just because of the whole ranking systems and stuff. So yeah, you can do that. Those of you missed some of the show, you can find the VODs on youtube.com/ChanManV shortly after the show. And the iTunes and Google podcast folks, you can find it early tomorrow. It usually takes like 24 hours for all that stuff to refresh, so you'll find it tomorrow. But that's, and lastly, big shout out to Tempo Storm, of course, and their sponsors for sponsoring the show. Always great. And that's going to be it for Value Town this week. So for Noxious, Reynad, and ChanManV, we'll see you next time. Later.
Peace.